All right. Good morning and welcome to the session. Today's talk is largely going to be around how Zoom scaled their threat detection and incident response practice, in short, TDIR, in response to the hyperscale growth that they saw during the past couple of years. Today, the Zoom security teams ingest more than like hundreds of terabytes of data per day. But that wasn't the case when we first started with the engagement. The pandemic created immense amount of pressure on multiple teams at Zoom to scale their services. This team in particular was able to scale this practice by 100x in just a couple of years, delivering the user experience that we've all come to love, making Zoom a verb. Hi, my name is Amit Kumar Agarwal, and I'm a lead solutions architect at AWS working with Zoom. I was brought in right at the onset of the pandemic to help Zoom scale. So yes, I have firsthand experience on how they scale their systems, including their overall security posture. With me, I also have Jonathan Poling. He is a principal security consultant from the AWS professional services team, and he led the overall engagement at Zoom. From Zoom, we have Vijay Chepuri. He's the engineering manager for the security and monitoring team, security logging and monitoring team. And we also have Iman Rudbai. He is part of the security and monitoring team, and he wears multiple hats. He is the infra guy, he's the DevOps guy, and he's also the data architect. Now, before we get into the agenda, please note that this is a 300-level session. So the end of 60 minutes, our goal will be to give you a mental model on how you can start your own TDIR practice or even scale your TDR practice due to known and unforeseen business circumstances in AWS. To get us started, Vijay is going to be talking about Zoom and just give you an overview of products and services and then go into challenges and some of the design principles that they used at the onset of the practice. We're going to get into how the AWS and Zoom teams collaborated to build a holistic security posture, specifically the TDR capabilities in AWS. And then we're going to be talking about Zoom's current TDR practice, the number of data sources that they ingest, the data pipelines, the automation, and the integrations that they've built to detect and mitigate security incidents fast. Now, enough from me. I'm going to hand this over now to Vijay to talk about Zoom.
Thank you, Amit. My name is Vijay. I lead the security monitoring and logging at Zoom. Me and my team, Iman here, are very proud Zoomies. We are very passionate about our work and the impact that we create in our jobs every day. Before we dive into our TDR practice and and some technical information on top of it, let's look into who we are and what we also offer. So most of you all know what Zoom is and what we do. Zoom is for pretty much everybody. We offer free meeting minutes, which is about, I think, 40 minutes to just about anybody across the globe. And which means you can basically have any number of meetings on the platform. And our mission is to make all these video communications secure and frictionless. But we also offer more than just free meetings. So let's take a quick peek at our services and other products that we also offer. We are a unified communications platform. This comprises of Zoom meetings, chat, phone, contact center, whiteboard, and a lot of wide variety of communication products. Our strategic pillars reflect our customer-centric approach and innovation-obsessed mindset as well. The reason I'm using the word obsessed is because the rate or the velocity at which we release features into our products is really quick. Now, all of this applied to hybrid work, whether you're working from home or office, have helped so many adapt and respond to the evolving nature of work caused by these technological shifts, technological changes, and also the global pandemic. Now let's look into our business workflows. I'm sorry. Our business workflows are like natural extensions for the communications that you're having on Zoom meetings. This meant not only delivering or developing our solutions on our platform, but we've also invited external developers or third-party developers to contribute to our ecosystem. Basically, all the apps that you use in the Zoom, which means you could execute a DocuSign or a contract using DocuSign on the Zoom meeting, or even use Asana to assign tasks, or even use Dropbox to take meeting notes on all in one meeting. Now, for all these platform services and products to run efficiently, we need a very efficient and reliable platform. The way we came up with is to ensure our platform stays up and running to meet our scaling demands is we came up with a model which is like think of it as 3 layers. One is control plane, and the data plane, and the data services. The control plane is all about all the front end and the back end services, which could be web services and the microservices that are on that layer. And the data plane is all about the real-time components, all the components that deliver real-time services, and the telephone infrastructure. And the data services is all where we store, which is data about meeting minutes or even phone. That could be associated with chat and all these things. Now, all these layers scale independently, and which is why we were able to meet our growing demands in the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic. Now, with growing demands also came in security concerns. Here we'll talk about how we started our security program and how we aligned our security program to our cohesive strategy for the leadership. Basically, we want to have a goal that is in line with our business, make our customers more confident in using our product, let them know that security at Zoom is serious and we do it with passion. So our goal is to build a world-class detection pipeline to defend our network, basically. So what does this mean? So let's translate that vision into a few more technical terms. That vision for us meant having 360-degree view of the entire network through security data on an efficient platform that is capable of doing analytics and data modeling on a correlation engine, which is able to initiate security notables to prevent, detect, and respond in time. I'll pause here for a moment, let that seep in for a second. So basically, in line with our goal and translating that into that 360-degree view, and to make that possible, we focused on 3 key areas. One was personas and team. This was all about building an awesome team, gather that expertise across the globe, and who are actually passionate about doing all these things together. This also meant communication, collaboration across, basically for whether it is adjacent team members, stakeholders, or program owners. We want to get all these people onto the same page so that we are able to achieve these milestones together which are needed to get that 360-degree view. And then comes the data and visibility. Oops. This is all about getting that security event onto your platform and the pipelines that are needed and the use cases that go on top of it. Data onboarding is all about getting that security events onto your platform from all the components, whatever your network is comprised of. Now, once you get all that data into your SIEM for that central visibility, and you also need those pipelines to be able to handle that influx just in case if you have a bad day or on a Monday the data if the influx goes up. So it all boils down to data pipeline management and data retention design. And then comes the use cases, where this is all about alert logic. We'll dive into use cases a little bit more into the future slides. And the next thing is automation and platform. This is where we wanted to automate to reduce manual intervention or human operations for efficient operations, basically. This is to be able to globally scale, push those apps or configurations across the network globally, whether it is whatever the part of the globe it is. And for this, we also adopted a few design principles, like efficiency for an efficient SIEM, that is just to ensure your SIEM is able to handle all the bad searches or spikes in the data that you may have on your platform, and then reliability just in case if for business continuity or disaster recovery scenarios or even for high availability purposes. And this is also about having a secure pipeline. Now, for all of this, choosing AWS was an easy decision for us because we could access any part of the globe and it was pretty much available, and adopting and deploying our services was quite easy. And with that, I'll be passing on to AWS team to learn about our partnership and how our collaboration helped us in our TDR journey. Thank you.
Good job. So, when you think of the Zoom and the AWS team collaboration, our collaboration started almost like a decade ago. This is when Zoom first started building their services on the platform. But during the pandemic, this collaboration and engagement just took a whole new meaning. We were having deep conversations with several different teams at Zoom on scale, on resiliency, on cost optimization, and of course, security. With this, I clearly remember that while the teams were scaling out the Zoom infrastructure, the security team also got engaged from AWS. And we wanted to help them with the holistic security model. I clearly remember that it was a Sunday afternoon when a bunch of specialists from the AWS security team got engaged with the head of data center operations at Zoom and his team, and we did a security well-architected review. And through that security well-architected review, we identified a few critical findings that needed to be fixed immediately. From then on, the AWS Pro Services team got engaged with Zoom, and we started building with them wherever they needed help. After several conversations with the Zoom team, we aligned that a security holistic approach was really needed for the engagement, and therefore we aligned on delivering a security epics program. And so if you think about what is a security epics program out here, I know that this slide is a little bit busy, and I don't expect you all to remember everything on the slide, so please take a photograph and then you can talk to the account teams about this. But think about the security epics program is essentially a strategic engagement on the holistic security model and laying the foundational and baseline security across all AWS accounts across all regions. However, it has tactical implementation approach that is measurable. The security epics program contains 5 pillars. It has identity and access management, we have detective controls, we have infrastructure protection, data protection, and incident response. Now, to talk about specifically what we did at Zoom, I call upon Jonathan Poling. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Amit. As introduced earlier, I'm Jonathan Poling. I am a principal security consultant with AWS Professional Services, and I am the lead for our threat detection and incident response offering, development and delivery portion of that. As mentioned, I led the threat detection and incident response portion of the security epics engagement with Zoom. So we saw on the previous slide all those areas that are covered, but let's take a step back and ask ourselves, well, why choose a security epics? Right? What's the purpose of that? Well, Customers can often struggle in their cloud journey, frankly, and implementing effective security mechanisms and foundations across all of their AWS accounts, right? Across 2 of them, 200 of them, 2,000 of them, right? That might be resonating with some of us that have many, many accounts, right? So specifically in Zoom's case, their usage and customer base was just absolutely rapidly expanding and exploding through the pandemic, right? All the while, they were rapidly expanding their operational and security teams to meet that demand. So the AWS Security Epics was chosen to build confidence and capability, not just across the security teams, but operational teams as well, because operational teams help implement and facilitate the security of an organization. Doing that, we helped incorporate the security foundations across all of their accounts, leveraging both of these teams and working with them side by side, and augmenting their security posture, all without hindering innovation or growth, right? That's a key part of that. So what did we do? So over the course of several months, AWS professional services security experts worked hand in hand with Zoom's operational and security teams to define and implement a variety of core controls. We saw some of them previously, but some of them were AWS organizations, federated access, automate security and code, centralized log ingestion and management, encryption, secrets management, just to name a few, right? But we're here discussing TDIR. So specifically for our TDIR areas of focus and development, we worked with them to ensure they have core services like Guard Duty and Security Hub enabled and configured at scale, so they are effectively detecting threats across all of their different environments and aggregating them into a centralized place where they can easily do something with them. We also wanted to ensure that they were effectively collecting, aggregating, and centralizing their logs, so they had all the logs needed to effectively detect, respond, investigate, and recover from an incident. To name a few, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, S3 data events, VPC flow logs, Route 53 DNS resolver query logs, AWS config, the list goes on, right? We also provided a blueprint for a cloud-native search mechanism, leveraging Athena, so that Zoom could have an ad hoc capability to do direct querying and analysis of logs in S3 for their investigations. That said, technology is not the only pillar that defines the success of a TDIR program, right? So if we're familiar with it, there's 3 core pillars of security, right? There's technology, people, and process. People and process are equally critical and important to building an effective TDIR program. So as part of the AWS Security Epics, we also provided comprehensive hands-on workshops and labs to do IR and incident response and AWS training to help train Zoom's incident response staff in AWS environments to learn what it looks like to detect and respond to threats there. This also included incident response simulations with incident response stakeholders, not just the incident response team, but all incident response stakeholders that may be non-technical folks as well, so everyone understands their role as part of the detection, response, investigation, and recovery process. Ultimately, we worked across operational and security teams to upskill over 100 staff in total over the course of several months. And with that, I will pass it back to Zoom, Iman specifically, to discuss a little bit more in depth about their TDIR practice.
Okay. Just try to also mention that this is my first Inforce at AWS. I'm so excited, sorry. Anyhow, we all talk about that, the Zoom, and then what is important for all of us to make sure from the whole entire organization, we stay up, running, safe and secure, and then resilient. Let's start to peeling this onion together and then figure it out what we have done in order to achieve our TDIR practices. In this slide, which I'm going to show you guys, after several hours working with the AWS support, which most of them, they are here too, we start to reviewing lots of accounts that we have globally distributed across the whole entire board. We're just grabbing all the information, valuable AWS log event data and such things from different accounts into our environment. Very valuable data like the Security Hub, Guard Duty, and then so on. We also started thinking about what should I do with our networking environment. We have lots of network and then also the event data that are coming from our Zoom Colo environment, which also including a massive amount of the data that are coming from our application, Zoom application, which is spread it across the whole three models, as Vijay mentioned, from the data plane, control plane, and also marketplace apps. We also have a lots of amount of the data that are coming from the SaaS platforms. This SaaS platform including very valuable data for detection team, like the endpoint detection and response. Something like that, the data loss prevention, antiviruses, or even though phishing that is coming from the whole entire environment. Then we think about it, what should we do in order to ingest all those data in the single place to make sure that we are able to have some sort of the vision and then 300-degree of the whole entire environment. For that reason, we start to adding our security information and event management, short for SIEM. Short does three major functions for us. One, it starts to data parsing and then some normalization of the data. It also does some data analysis and correlation for us. And then for all those data that is coming to that specific platform, it's also giving us the ability to action and then create an alert and notable. The next layer on this 4 different layers is our consumers. I remember when we started, most of our consumers has to go back to a different dashboard using the different variety of the dashboard in order to remediate their incident. And it's make our incident response very vague. Some department like the SOC team, incident response, or even though our trust and safety having the same problem. But right now, by integrating the SIEM in place, we put everybody together and then use them as the single source of the truth and then single lenses. We also added our 4th layer, which are security orchestration automation and response, short for SOAR. SOAR does 3 major functions for us. First of all, it's helping us for threat intel enrichment and also vulnerability management. With the built-in model that is already giving us, it also provides us with the environment that we are able to create that automated playbook to remediate our incident as fast as we can. And then lastly, it's also helping us to triage some of the incident with the low to mid-level incident in automated fashion with no or very minimum human intervention. In the next slide, I really would like to start having our all discussion together related to how we are able to create the pipeline, how we are able to ingest all those massive amount of the data into our environment, and also start to talking all together on how we were able to use that our SIEM platform on AWS and massively scale that amount. Let's move forward. As we spoke, there were several data sources that are coming from the variety of environments, colo environment, Zoom application, SaaS, and also AWS. These data sources are creating hundreds terabytes worth of the data daily, and it's really hard to manage because they are coming, spreading across so many different VPCs, globally distributed, running on the different region and different zone. But in order to achieve this goal, what we have done, we added the custom built services in order to funnel all those data into this environment, which we called it a smart logger. A smart logger does 3 major functions for us. It trims, it normalizes, and parses the data before it starts sending out to our SIEM platform. Think about that the smart logger as the data broker, which is helping us to review our data before we send it out into our SIEM or our data lake. It's also helping us as a third function. It's also helping us to make sure we are able to filter the environment and also replay the environment to retrieving the data from our data lake, just in case if we need to take a look at our historical data and then get back to whatever that it needs to remediate our TDIR incident. Let's talk about the security data lake. Our security data lake is purely built on AWS S3. And we build it Thank you. Our security data lake is purely based on the S3 environment. But we do have two major functions in order to achieve our data lake. First, data lake will helping us to write the data in any open data formats that we can retrieve the data at any given time and then send it to the downstream system for any system for doing the analytic. That means we just try to get rid of any specific model that is forcing us to follow it. Second of all, it's also helping us to make sure we are achieving our requirement by the compliance. Because in some of our data, we have to keep the data over the 10 years or up to 10 years into our environment. Okay, let me just reduce that one a little bit. Now, let's talk about another built-in service, which we called it Argus. Argus is a very important function for us. What it does is, it starts searching massively across the very big amount of the data. And it helps us, the Argus platforms, it helps us to find any specific data that we are looking for our TDIR environment and then search it across any platforms. Overall, what I would like to talk about the Argus. Argus is really helping us to do any sort of the searching on a specific data model or any specific part of the data across any platforms. And it's purely based on the technology that we use. We are using the Apache Dask and also the Apache workflows. Beyond the Argus, we also have our last model in these pictures, which is still work in progress. And it's our AI and machine learning model. What we try to achieve with our AI and machine learning model is to make sure we are able to detect any abnormal user behaviors across the whole entire environment, and also find out if there is any malicious access or actors across our platform or product. Okay, let's start talking about our data pipeline overview in general. In AWS, as we discussed, we have multiple accounts distributed globally across everywhere. All the valuable data that is coming, eventually it's sent out to our AWS central log archiver bucket or log archiver account through the Kinesis Firehose. The reason that we use the Kinesis Firehose, because it's very easy for any data producer with the minimum amount of the writing application and such things, send the data to any downstream systems. We are ingesting all those data eventually to our S3 bucket. But I will jump ahead a little bit. I would like to tell you, Kinesis Firehose is also doing some of the data normalization for us, which is very, very important. that kind of data normalization in the native integration with the Lambda function, in general, is helping us to have the three key major functions in our environment. First of all, it's helping us, specifically with the integration with the Lambda function, it's helping us to make sure our data, it has some sort of the polling, better polling. It's also helping us to make sure that you do have some sort of the validation of the data before it's sending out to your downstreams, which is S3. And it also is helping us to make sure the amount of the normalization and then time, how it just put together. What I would like to try to tell, in general, we are trying to make sure all our data, before it's handed over to our SIEM platforms, is granularized as much as we can. Because then it's reducing our compute and it's reducing our, it's increasing our search as fast as it's possible. The S3 event notification, it drives our messaging system. It goes to our SQS, Amazon SQS bucket. And that Amazon SQS services, which will allowing us to pipe all our messages to our smart logger. One of the major reasons that we use the SQS, because it's seamlessly, without any additional work, it's growing very fast based on the data amount and then based on the usage. And also, it's very easy to scale up, as we discussed. And then after that, all the data, we eventually send it to our SIEM and our data lake. Now, let's go to another part of that discussion, which we would like to peeling off our SIEM on AWS and overview altogether. For SIEM platform, we chose a Splunk on AWS architectures. And there was a two major reasons that we use both of them. It allows us to scale and also automate with ease. In the first bottom layer of this cake, you will see all our data sources, which we already discussed about it, right? The data that are coming from the different environments that we have. It also includes our forwarders, which are the agents running our compute node. Those agents will helping us to collect the data in very safe and secure and scalable model before it's sending out to our smart logger. Then a smart logger do some of the process, as we discussed and then mentioned in the past, and then send it over into our intermediate heavy forwarders. The intermediate heavy forwarders are the aggregation point, which will helping us to sort the data and then normalize the data based on the categorization, like for the source or event type, before it's sending out to our indexer tiers. What the indexer tiers does here for us is there's a bunch of the cluster, bunch of the compute machine, which indexing the data and then storing the data in order to the search perform efficiently. One of the major part in the right side, which I would like to discuss with you guys, is our smart logger. A smart store, sorry. A smart store is the feature that we used for our remote storage tier paired with our indexers. What it does is it helps us to make sure the data stage in the multiple layers in our environments that can be used even for immediate use or retrieve later on for fetching any type of the historical data. The Smart Store, it's also the great features that allows us to manage the data on S3 bucket and then isolated our indexers and reduce our cost and then computation on our indexers to make sure that the data it's eventually be available, even though when for longer time, like beyond 90 days or such a things. Then the next layer is our search head. What the search head does in this platform is just like the query engine. And search head is the one who has an access to the whole entire platforms in order to make sure that the search performs efficiently, and also all the TDIR operations based on the application that we already installed on these platforms is helping us to just retrieve the data as fast as it can, and then user can create the alert and then whatever that they need from the user perspective. Now, let's talk about our automation very fast and quick. What I would like to discuss about this model, this is very important for all of us, because at Zoom, we mandated to use the environment to manage all of our infrastructures through the control code. We are not allowing to accessing to anything like the console and such a things. For that reason, based on the request by our top management and also from that compliance, we have to make sure whatever that we are putting, it's scalable, it's repeatable, it has the version control on us. We have to make sure that all of our developers, before sending and pushing our code, test it into our CI/CD pipeline, and then test it on our sandbox or even though the dev account, and then after it passed the test, we are able to push it into our production environment. Automation is also very key point into our business continuity, because we have to make sure that our code stays evenly distributed across the different environments, right? And then make sure that our security groups, make sure everything that we are trying to achieve in our other environment, it also has the version control on top of it. I would like to also touch about our scaling. We are using the combination of the Terraform and then CloudFormation in order to deploy our code across the environment. That is really helpful to make sure that you are able to see your environment based on the usage when the demand is going up, and then start to pushing your code and then adding more indexers to the pool, adding more cluster search head to the pool, or even though the intermediate forwarders to the pool, in order to make sure that everything is a scale up as fast as it can, and that as we used. As Amit mentioned, when we started this experience, we have only one search head, 10 indexers, and then also like 2 intermediate forwarders. With the scalability platform that we put together right now, we have more than 250 plus indexers, more than 200 forwarders in the peak of usage, in about more than 50 plus of our intermediate heavy forwarders, and also worth of 15 petabytes of the smart storage data, purely to use by security team. I would like to also mention that with the help of the algorithm behind the scene by the AWS, it's make us very convenient to scale up on demand, like changing the scaling up that your EC2 instance, or also changing the IOPS on the fly, which helps us a lot. Now, by knowing that, I'm going to pass it to Vijay in order to introduce and then how we do the integration for use case.
Thank you, Matt. So integration is all about all the components that you need for an efficient pipeline, whether it is for data enrichment purposes, ticketing, or other technologies that you want to attach and that you could make use of. So let's start with central ticketing system. This is where we want to segregate all the alerts that are coming into SIEM, but then also translate them into tickets into a central ticketing system. This also helped in segregating access to other teams. Say, for instance, if you wanted audit teams to have access to ticketing data, you don't have to give them access to SIEM platform directly. And then it also helped in a few of the teams where you don't want them to have visibility into your SIEM platform. Now let's look at SOAR. We talked a little bit about SOAR in the few earlier slides, which is security orchestration and automated response. This is where you to basically attach to our SIEM for certain class of alerts for automatic alert remediation. This helped us about 30% of SOC's time because we were able to automatically alert most of the severity 1, severity 2 alerts. Again, depends upon your organization, how your alerts are set up and the playbooks associated with it. Let's look at threat intel. This is all the threat intel data that you want to gather from external resources, gather, consolidate, and enrich your data for correlation or whatever purposes that you need for your SOC team and the incident response team. And the CSPM. This is basically for multiple lenses for your platform. We have SIEM on one side and CSPM on the other side. CSPM is more like having a camera outside the house because this is purely based on API calls. And it is specifically targeted for our cloud footprint because we are like cloud intensive across the board, including colos. So this helps us have that extra visibility from another pair of eyes. All right, and now let's look into use cases. Use cases is all about alert logic that you put on your system. This means what to look for and alert on your data when it comes into your SIEM platform. This is like a soul to your pipeline, without which all your data is probably only good for investigations. I've seen some best pipelines out there because they had mature use cases without any cool technology or minimum integrations. Which means you may have the best technology in your pipeline, but without a strategic use cases, your pipeline is of less use. And that's why I'm actually really stressing on the point of use cases here. And we've adopted 3 types of use cases in our environment: rule-based, risk-based, and analytics-based. Rule-based is pretty straightforward, is based on alerts on your SIEM where you can say, hey, if my admin is deleting data, alert me. Something like that, something along those lines. Risk-based is based on data where you tie risk scores for each of your device, whether it is people, device, or any asset on your network. And based on the higher priority of your risk, you can classify those alerts, and your SOC can actually focus on those specific high priority alerts. And then the analytics-based alerts. One example I could take here is user behavior based alerts. And then after this, you also want to make sure you're tuning all these alerts so that you are not your SOC is basically focusing on high fidelity alerts and complex ones. Let's look at the way the alert triage is set up on our side. Now, this is an extension of data pipeline overview that Iman has been talking in the previous slides. As you can see, we have added SOAR into our pipeline. This is basically to alert a specific class of alerts in our environment. And based on SIEM's classification and the priority it sets up, SOAR picks up those alerts and sends it and talks integrations for alert remediations, for automatic alert remediations, and if it has to be involved with SOC or incident response, it'll also forward it there. Now, all the notables that come out of SIEM basically go into SOAR, based on the, again, alert category, and then the SOAR talks integrations if it has access for that specific alert, and then if it is complex, it'll pass it to SIEM. Just a basic overview there. Now let's look at an example of alert here. So in this case, we'll talk about how our guard duty findings to detect an IAM user account compromise. Now, SIEM alerts based on the threat intel it has, basically from CloudTrail or guard duty or other sources that it receives. Now, SIEM identifies the priority and classifies the alert, and if SOAR picks it up, it picks it up and then it blocks the access for the compromised account based on the intel it receives and the playbooks it is tied to. And it also creates a ticket in the central ticketing system that I was talking about. Now, if this requires an additional analyzation, and if that specific account created any rogue devices in the network, that's when the SOC or the IR team gets involved in. Now, let's look at how our overall architecture challenges we had and the mitigations that we adopted to address those challenges. One of the major things that we've learned in our journey, in our TDR journey, was endpoint management. We have a lot of endpoints. We have about, I think you've seen in the previous slides, we have about 200,000 endpoints, or maybe more, actually more than that. Now, to manage all these endpoints, it becomes a challenge, because you have to push those apps or configurations to all these endpoints so that you're able to see these endpoints, and also basically get those logs the way you want it, along with the parameters that you wanted. Now, to be able to manage with a single device, that became a challenge. So we had to come up with a creative approach, adopt a clustered environment to be able to manage these endpoints. This is precisely for configuration updates and apps to be pushed across. And security was also a big concern. Because if the agents that are running on these endpoints are with elevated permissions, and somebody could actually take over these endpoint management solution and then basically breach a network. So we also had to harden the communication between the endpoints and the clustered solution. We looked at app and configurations, updates, and security. Now, the data volume and spikes. For us to be able to accommodate spikes on a bad day or a Monday, or any high data influxes that we may have at any given time without impacting our performance, we came up with a model, like as you see in Iman talk about our automation, how we deployed, basically how we pushed our CI/CD pipelines, adapter Terraforms, or to deploy nodes on the fly to be able to address those performance issues. And this is also be able to present those hard data to our SOC analyst, whether it is last 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever the case may be in that specific investigation. Now, let's look at, I'm sorry. So we looked at performance and on-demand compute. Now, here we'll talk about how we are continuing our enhancements. This is about the 360-degree visibility that we want to have our network, where we saw the goal and then we translate that goal into that technical terms that we had on the screen. This is all the security data that we're gathering from all these security components, whether it is corporate, whether it is platform, product, marketplace, whatever your environment is comprised of. Bring in all the data, have the 360-degree visibility of the network, and put it on the screen. And then basically that way the SOC is more confident in addressing alerts or doing investigations, for all these SOC-related activities. Now, data open to any consumer. We wanted to keep the data on our SIEM basically open to any consumer. This is where any other technologies from other teams could talk to our data, make use of the data to, for basically, it could be analytics or any other machine learning model that you could apply on top of it, specifically for, let's say, trust and safety and other use cases that we adopted in our case. Now, we've also seen Smart Logger. You've seen Smart Logger in a few slides in where Iman showed. This is basically to parse, filter, route, compress data, and also to be able to copy the same set of data to multiple sources in the network. You want to send it to SIEM, you want to send it to Data Lake, or you want to send it to another third-party solution that, if it requires, based on, you can actually put controls on what data you could send it, who can actually see that data, etc. And the SOAR maturity, this is all about playbooks, where you can write playbooks, say, hey, these could be automatically addressed by SOAR. If not, then send it to SOC or the IR. Now then, the leadership window. This is one snapshot that we want to give to our leaders so that they can actually get a glance of our environment at an instance and real time. This is like telling our leaders, or when my CISO or my director opens this window, it's like a dashboard. They'll give a real-time status of what our environment is, how many vulnerabilities do we have at that given time, how many people are logging into our network, whether it is on VPN or how many people are actually in the office at a given time. And the stats, basically how many people, if there are DDoS attacks happening at any given time on our network devices that are facing public, all of these stats, whatever your leadership is interested in. So we want to consolidate all these together and present that to leadership so that they can see, have access to this information in real time. Now with that here, I'm going to conclude my TDR journey so far, and I'll pass it on to AWS here.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vijay, Jonathan, and Iman. So let's wrap this up. What are some of the key takeaways that we've discussed so far? So the first one is TDIR is a journey. And we saw how Zoom was able to rapidly scale their practice in response to unforeseen business circumstances. They started before the pandemic, but had to accelerate because of it. The bottom line is that you as a customer can start small and build a framework and then expand. Zoom already have thought about this framework, and therefore they were able to expand during the pandemic. The second piece is we also saw some of the design principles that they adopted and the models that they have built. The key is to build a centralized data engineering pipeline and automation mechanism so that you can detect and you can mitigate response in time. We also saw Jonathan mention that training and hands-on experiences is very, very important. Not only understanding AWS components is important, but also some of the third-party integrations that you need to do. So definitely, hands-on training, you have to get done before you start this journey, and you have to continuously keep on doing as you involve more and more components. And the fourth piece is please engage your AWS account teams early. From an AWS account team perspective, we focus on three things. One is basically we want to help you build solutions and architectures that delight your user experience so that help you grow your revenue. The second piece is we want to help you optimize your operating costs on the platform. And the third piece is we want to help you mitigate any security risks and protect your brand. This is something that we did for Zoom in this case. Now with that, I will conclude my talk. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we are open to take them right now. And please do fill out your survey. Thank you.